Hi guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with the patch notes for patch 2.6a. And now, I gotta be honest, I have no idea if I'm keeping to my promise of the within the 24 hours because I didn't even know that patch 2.6a released. It's another one of those patches where Riot just slipped it into the game and it went live and the patch notes went live when it went live. So, yeah. So, yesterday I was playing Wild Rift and I saw that it was downloading data and I thought that was for like the Crystal Rose skins or something, but turns out it was for this and I didn't even notice that it patched over, and I played a couple of ranked games after that, etc, etc. But anyways, we're gonna get into it now. Alright, so first up we got a couple of new skins. So we got the like Christmas skins for Veigar, Braum, and Lulu. Of course, all of these are from different lines, but they're all Christmas themed. We got the project line releasing at the end of the year, of course with an accompanying event which we'll get into later. And in January we have a couple of miscellaneous skins. We have Blood Moon Thresh, Dampmaster Darius, and Steel Legion Lux. So yeah, for the accessories we have as shown, mostly a lot of project emotes, a lot of Christmas emotes, generally centered around those. And here we have the borders for the project skins actually, which looks pretty nice. So I assume that if you get the skin, you get the corresponding border. So yeah. Alright, so events, we have the New Year's event. So actually we did have a similar New Year's event last year, right after Wild Rift released. So if I'm not wrong, it is a very small event where you just get, I think, like Poro coins and like some blue motes, etc. But yeah. So next we have the project event. So of course releasing together with the project skins. No idea what that's going to be about. And yeah, there's a project boost event as well, which is pretty interesting, coming like about a week after the project event itself. So we'll have to see when we get there what it's all about, but obviously we wouldn't know now. We don't have any details of the event. So now we move on to the champion changes. So this patch is mostly about champion changes, like how all minor patches are normally about champion changes. So here, first change with Akshan getting a base AD nerf of 6. So now seems that Riot has found their new favorite number and new favorite nerf pattern, which is nerfing and buffing people's base AD by 6. Now we all know that they love to nerf and buff base HP by 40. Now they moved on to nerfing and buffing base AD by 6. So nerfing base AD by 6, like what they did on Xayah, will actually have an impact, and you will actually feel it. It seems like 680 is very little when you look at the grand scheme of things, where you still have 52 other points of AD, and you're going to be building a lot more AD in your build, but you can really feel it, especially in the early levels. So the whole point of this is they want to make Akshan's early game a little bit weaker, of course. So I think this is a good change, because I think he was really strong at early levels, especially a good Akshan player who can get a who can, you know, just keep on auto-attacking and then going for a big swing can pretty much nearly kill you. So yeah, so here's Q, the Avenger rank. The base damage is going down, especially at later levels. So it's going down by like 5 at rank 2, 10 at rank 3, and by a whopping 15 at rank 4. So this is going to affect his late game damage especially. And some people max this first, but I max it second. I like to max E first. So to me, this isn't the worst change. I do think Akshan is pretty strong and he's in a pretty good spot at the moment. So I do think that lowering his power level a bit with these two nerfs is a step in the right direction, but not to over nerf him. So I think that this is fine. So Amumu is getting a slight reversion. So he's getting 80 base health back, which I do believe they nerfed it by like 40 or something in the previous patch, because they gave him a double bandage toss, and his base armor is going up. So basically, he's now a little bit too weak because they over nerfed him in the last patch. So now instead they're giving him some of his base stats back, and on his bandage toss, the recharge time is going down at all ranks, and the base damage is going up at all ranks. So pretty much it's just a Amumu buff. Now what I will say is that bandage toss, his recharge time and his base damage change is gonna affect Amumu support more than Amumu jungle, because if you're playing Amumu jungle and you come in for a gank, even at like max rank of Q, it's going to be 12.5 seconds, which is really long. So by the time it comes up again, likely the fight or the gank is over already. Whereas if you're playing lane Amumu, then you're going to be having it up more often, and you can bandage charge somebody more often. Of course, not saying that you're going to go in whenever it's up, but it's probably going to affect support Amumu more than jungle Amumu, and of course the base damage will affect both. But considering the lane Amumu can throw his Q more often, it will affect the lane Amumu more. So it's a bigger buff for lane Amumu than jungle Amumu, but still it's a buff to Amumu overall. So Camille is actually getting a huge nerf. So first up, she's getting a buff on her health per level. So she's getting an extra 10 health per level. That's in compensation to this. So her adaptive defenses used to have a flat 10 seconds cooldown, and now it's getting a scaling cooldown where it starts off at 18 seconds at level 1, goes down to 16 at level 5, all the way down to 12 seconds at level 13. So now at max level of level 15, you're still gonna have a 12 seconds cooldown, which is still a 2 seconds cooldown nerf from what it was. But at like early levels, like pre-level 5 or even at level 5, the difference of like 8 to 6 seconds is huge. That's nearly double of the 10 seconds. And Camille was very strong, of course, because she was very good in 1v1s, and a lot of the reason why she was good in 1v1s is just because of her adaptive defense as shield. Like, it's very, very hard to trade against a Camille when her passive is up, because her shield will absorb so much of that damage that you wouldn't actually do, or you either wouldn't do any damage to her, or you do a very, very small amount of damage to her because of her shield. So now with this shield down, there is a couple of implications. So firstly, with a longer cooldown, there's a larger window to punish when her shield is down. So like if her shield is proud, you know you have a good 18 seconds to punish where her shield is down, and you can actually trade with her a little bit more effectively. And of course, Camille herself can take trades less effectively, which means that she's overall going to be a weaker Baron laner. So this, honestly, I think will drop Camille down the tier list, at least by a little bit. Because I do think that a lot of Camille's strength comes from the passive. Of course, the rest of the kit is really good as well, but a lot of the strength comes from the passive. So yeah. Fiora catching another nerf. Her riposte cooldown is going up by quite a significant amount. At rank 1, it's going up by 5 seconds, and you max riposte last as Fiora. You max your lunge first, then your E, and then riposte as your last ability. So you will be sitting on an 18-second cooldown for majority of the game until you reach the later stages of the game, where you will still get a 2-second cooldown nerf at max rank. But honestly, I feel that it's kind of the same thing as Camille's nerf, but it's just way better because Fiora didn't really rely on her riposte trait. It's more of a reactive ability that when you see CC coming, you just instinctively cast your riposte, and it just because its cooldown has gone up by about 5 seconds, I honestly don't think it makes that big of a difference, because it's not like her main damage tool or anything. It's just a utility tool that of course is very useful to immune CC and damage, but I don't think that she'll be as badly affected as Camille. I think that she will be affected a little bit, but I don't think she's going to be affected by a lot, and I still think Fiora is going to be top tier. So Fizz getting another nerf on his ultimate, getting a 10-second ult cooldown nerf. Again, he did get a cooldown nerf, I believe was the 5-10-15 cooldown nerf, or the 15-10-5 cooldown nerf previously when Fizz was really, really strong. Now I think Fizz is in a okay spot. Does his ultimate come up a bit too often? Maybe, but I think that's debatable. But anyways, clearly Riot has felt that was the case, so they did nerf his cooldown by a further 10 seconds, and this should make his ult cooldown very, very reasonable. I don't see them nerfing his ult cooldown anymore, because anymore it would be pretty bad. So even at max rank, it's like a 1 minute cooldown, which is pretty long in Wild Rift compared to a lot of the other cooldowns. So J4 has been played a lot in jungle and top, and they think that he is too strong, which honestly I think Jarvan was in a okay spot. I didn't really think he was too strong, but they're nerfing his base AD again, you know, with the trend of the base AD nerfs. I'm nerfing it by 6, of course, the usual number, as we've come to know. And then also nerfing his Dragon Strike, which is Q, the base damage by 10 at all ranks. So the thing about this is, the base AD nerf and the Dragon Strike nerf, I feel like is going to be a little bit more focused on the Baron lane Jarvan. And Baron lane Jarvan is a counter pick to certain matchups, like for example Kennen. Like with like a Kennen matchup, all you do is sit back and keep on throwing your Q. So really, this is going to be affecting lane Jarvan a lot more than the jungle Jarvan. Of course, the base AD nerf is going to affect jungle Jarvan. Like his clear is going to be that much slower, and you know, his early ganks will be maybe a little bit weaker, but he only dragon strikes like more or less like once or at most twice in a gang, so it's not gonna affect him that much. Like a loss of like 10 to 20 damage, not gonna affect him that much. But in lane, Jarvan spams his Q whenever it's up, so that's probably gonna affect lane Jarvan a lot more. But lane Jarvan is a very specific counter pick into like only a certain number of matchups anyway, so I don't feel the need to nerf Jarvan. But I guess in those specific counter matchups, it's gonna be a little bit easier to deal with Jarvan's poke. And you wouldn't really pick Jarvan into non-counter matchups anyway, because he isn't really that strong of a Baron lane. He's just really good as a counter pick. So, yeah. And Kai'Sa finally getting a buff. So obviously, her Q nerf was pretty bad for her in the like 2 patches ago, I think. So they're giving her a bonus AD ratio increase of 35% to 40%. And this, of course, whenever you buff the ratio, it means that in late game it's going to be better. And Kai'Sa technically in League PC was a late game kind of carry, and she was really weak in early game. But in Wild Rift, she actually had a very strong early game the moment she got her Q evolved. So they're kind of trying to push her more towards the late game by giving her better scaling but weaker like base damage, which is, I think, the direction that they want to push Kai'Sa towards, which is a more of a late game carry. So her Q is going to be doing a lot more damage in the late game, because 5% extra scaling will make a difference, especially when you get a lot of AD in the later stages of the game. And they're also giving her a buff on her E, where her attack speed is increasing by 15% at max rank, and the earlier ranks just minor changes like 5, 10, 15 kind of thing again. So another extra 15% attack speed is actually pretty significant, because like an item gives you like roughly about 45% increased attack speed. The most you can get is Wit's End, which is 50%, so this is like maybe a third of an item's worth of attack speed, which is for free. So it is, of course, really good for Kai'Sa. Now, Kayle, as expected, is getting a nerf, but I think that the nerfs to Kayle are pretty minor. 6 base attack damage nerf, which in Kayle's perspective honestly doesn't matter, because levels like 1 to 10, Kayle is pretty useless anyway, so really base attack damage really doesn't matter for Kayle. So also they're really inconsistent. They say base attack going down, but then here like they say base AD. So I'm not sure what's this inconsistency here. But anyways, this doesn't really matter at all. Their armor per level going down by 0.4 maybe will affect her slightly, but the one that really will affect her is the base attack speed per level, going down by 50 per level. So this is going to give her a lot less attack speed, so you might need to incorporate a little bit more attack speed in your build. Now the default Kayle build at the moment is the Hextech Gunblade into the Nashor's Tooth, then into something into like Death Cap and Void Staff. But maybe you might need to go for more attack speed items like Wit's End, or maybe like a crit Kayle build, because this attack speed nerf is pretty significant. But we'll have to see. Her ult base damage is going down by 50, 75, and 100 scaling nerf. But honestly, her ult damage really was never really a problem. Her ult was more of a safety tool and not really a damage tool. I think that like nerfing her ult cooldown, like what they usually do, would probably be a little bit more effective of a nerf compared to the ult damage nerf. But yeah, overall, I think Kayle is still going to be really strong. Just going to be a little bit weaker compared to the last patch. I think that this is the main nerf to take note of. I think the other nerfs are not really very incredibly significant. Now, Lee Sin, this one actually requires you to read the text to actually understand what they're doing here. So they're giving him some slight buffs that should help him in lower level games, but shouldn't impact him at higher level play. So he is getting a base health regen, increased by 1.5 health per 5 seconds. Really isn't going to affect anything at higher levels, especially in lower levels. If you're clearing the jungles a little bit less efficiently, this will maybe help you a little bit. But honestly, this nerf this buff is very ignorable. Like, you probably wouldn't even notice. Now this one might make a difference. The Dragon's Reach kick, his ult, damage going up by 25 at all ranks. In higher levels of play, it will make a difference, of course, because it is more damage, but 25 damage is really a very small amount of damage. So in lower levels, Probably will help a bit more when Lee Sin's are probably a little bit less competent, so that 25 damage might help him seal the deal on a kill, or, you know, just help him out in general. So yeah, I kind of think that these buffs are okay. Because even though I think Lee Sin is the best jungler, I think that these are obviously directed towards people who are learning Lee Sin, or not like top tier Lee Sins anyway, so I think that it's fine. Now Olaf, who I think was already in an okay spot, is getting a pretty huge buff. His AD per level going up by nearly 1. And that's going to give him a total of extra 14 AD, roughly at max level, which of course is going to help him a little bit. And his undertow slow ratio is going up by 5 at all ranks actually. So this, if you guys remember, there was a point where Olaf was the meta, Olaf top and Olaf jungle was the S+ tier, the only S+ tier. And they did nerf his undertow slow by, I think, was like 10 or 15%. So this is a minor reversion of his undertow slow. So this should help him out quite significantly. I think Olaf is in a really good spot at the moment. He was already in a okay spot, but I think this is going to put him in a good spot. Renekton, as expected, is of course catching a nerf. Surprises didn't come in the previous one, so he's getting the opposite of Olaf. He's getting a attack damage growth nerf of 1, roughly 1. So in total, it's gonna affect him by 14 AD at max level. Honestly, I think it probably isn't gonna affect him too much because it's growth. So his early levels are barely gonna be affected. So he's really strong in like the early and mid game, especially. In late game, he isn't really that strong anyways. So his strengths are still there. And his Ruthless Predator, which is his W, is going up by 1 second. And you know how I feel about 1 second nerfs. I think 1 second nerfs don't really matter all that much. So I think Renekton's still going to be in like roughly the same spot that he was. He's just going to be that much slightly weaker. But he's still going to be in a really strong spot. Senna is getting actually what I think is a pretty huge nerf. So the additional attack range she gets per 20 souls is going down from 25 to 15. That's nearly half. That's nearly half. Actually, is that nearly half? 50, 10, 12. Yeah, that's nearly half. It's just slightly over half. So, really, that's pretty huge because pretty much she's gonna need double the amount of souls to actually reach the same amount of range. And really, this is a huge nerf to Senna. It's really huge because she relies on her scaling a lot, and in the late game you need that range to just attack people from a long ways away, and really this is gonna affect her a lot. But she's getting a buff on her ult, where the shield amount is, when instead of giving 3 shield per soul, it's now giving 4 shield per soul. So overall, the more souls you get, the more shield you're gonna give to your allies. But this is a very minor buff to try to compensate for this major buff. So I think Senna's gonna be a bit weaker spot. I think she's gonna drop down the tier list a little bit. But yeah, Senna, while it didn't touch her damage, her range is pretty important. So Twisted Fate getting a buff. So if you guys remember, in the last patch they just nerfed his health. So now they're giving him a health per level increase of 10. So that's kind of like not reverting, but kind of compensating what they did in the previous patch. And also they pick a card cooldown going down by 1 second at all ranks. Probably not going to affect Twisted Fate too much on the pick a card, but the health per level is going to help him, especially in the late game, where getting an extra 140 health does make a difference because he is already a very squishy character. So that is pretty much it for patch 2.6a. Quite a bit of impactful changes all across the board. So and of course some that isn't really impactful at all, like, you know, like these yeah. So anyways guys, thanks for watching the video and goodbye.